It doesn't matter what the freaking legal and ethics people say. We need to win this motherfucker.
Hillary is aware of all the work that you guys do, I hope.
The campaign is fully innocent.
And then they tell Hillary what's going on.
Well, I mean, Hillary knows through the chain of command.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting we wait around. We need to start this shit right away.
Okay.
On every one of these fronts.
Okay.
What I call it is conflict engagement.
That's your version of re-enfranchisement.
Conflict engagement in the lines at Trump rallies. We're starting anarchy here.
This is part one of our undercover investigation into the dark, backroom dealings of the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign. The culmination of a year-long investigation infiltrating the machine from the bottom all the way to the White House. There are concerns this election will be rigged. What you're about to see will make you uncomfortable and angry. It's graphic, uncensored, and disturbing. Our attorneys say there is strong evidence of criminality, and this is just part one.
A lot of free union guys? They'll do whatever
Oh yeah.
you want. They're rock and roll.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground. Nobody's really supposed to know about me.
You know what I'm saying? We have mentally ill people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake.
This guy named Cesar Vargas is his name. I got a priest to cry on camera once.
You know, Brad and Bob and Lux and myself are all part of the old school method where it doesn't matter what the freaking legal and ethics people say. We need to win this motherfucker.
So Bob is really good friends with him, and talked to him this afternoon. And they are all in. If we can get 25 grand, they're all in.
There is a narrative that supporters at Trump rallies are violent and dangerous, looking to beat up protesters who don't agree with them. But our undercover investigation into the Hillary Clinton Democratic Party machine reveals a very different story.
If you're there and you're protesting and you do these actions, you will be attacked at Trump rallies. That's what we know.
So that's part of the process of
That's
eliciting the reaction.
The whole point of it is we know that Trump's people will freak the fuck out. His security team will freak out, and his supporters will lose their shit.
This is Scott Fogle. He is the National Field Director for Americans United for Change. He used to work for People for the American Way, an organization funded by George Soros. He also has his own company called the Fogle Group. He is one of the dark operatives for the Clinton campaign.
We are contracted directly with the DNC and the campaign, both.
Yeah.
I am contracted to him, but I answer to the head of special events for the DNC and the head of the special events and political for the campaign. The campaign pays DNC, DNC pays Democracy Partners pays the Fogle Group, the Fogle Group goes and executes the shit on the ground.
Democracy Partners is a private political consulting company with deep ties to Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama's White House, and the Democratic National Committee.
We are the primary mechanism as a team. Democracy Partners is the tip of the spear on this one.
Wherever Trump and Pence are going to be, we have events.
Okay.
And we have a whole team across the country that does that. Both consultants and people from the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party apparatus and people from the campaign, the Clinton campaign. My role with the campaign is to manage all that.
Bob Creamer is Democracy Partners. He is the husband of Jan Schakowsky, a Democratic congresswoman from Chicago, and in 2005 he pled guilty to tax violations and bank fraud. He was convicted and sentenced to 5 months in prison and 11 months of house arrest. He founded Democracy Partners in 2011.
Just for a little orientation, Democracy Partners is kind of a group practice of a variety of consultants that do essentially a wide variety of different kinds of political consulting.
I work with Bob Kramer one-to-one all the time. I'm the white hat. Democracy Partners is kind of the dark hat. Bob Kramer is diabolical, and I love him for it.
Yeah.
This investigation has revealed compelling evidence of a dark money conspiracy, a violation of federal campaign coordination laws between Hillary Clinton's campaign, Priorities USA, Hillary's super PAC, and the Democratic National Committee.
We have a clip deliverable that we have to deliver every day for our groups of clients who are involved in these projects. AUFC, A4C, which is Alliance for Change, Alliance for Retired Americans, which is part of AFL-CIO. They're one of our partners on the AUFC stuff for social security. Depends on the issue. And then there's the DNC and the campaigns and priorities. Priorities is a big part of this too. The campaigns and DNC cannot coordinate with priorities, but I guarantee you that the people who run the super PACs all talk to each other, and we and a few other people are the hubs of that communication.
Like, so you're kind of like intermediaries between the super PACs and the DNC. But the DNC, they can't talk to each other. Okay. But you guys are kind of like...
We're consultants, so we're not the official entity. And so those conversations can be had between consultants who are working for different parts. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why there's Bob, who's the primary there, and I'm a sub to him, and I'm also primary to AUFC separately. That's why.
So there's like a Morse code between the DNC and the super PACs.
It's less of a Morse code than it is a text conversation that never ends. It's like that. It's kind of like an ongoing Pony Express.
Okay, so I mean
that's not as efficient as it could be, but that's because the law doesn't allow it to be.
The thing that we have to watch is making sure there's a double blind between the actual campaign and the actual DNC and what we're doing. There's a double blind there, so that they can plausibly deny that they knew anything about it.
Scott Fovel is Kramer's attack dog. Fovel and his people train the agitators to go to Trump rallies, and nothing is left to chance.
There's a script.
Oh, there is a script.
There's a script.
Okay.
There's a script of engagement. Sometimes the crazies bite, and sometimes the crazies don't bite. They're starting confrontations in the line, right? They're not starting confrontations
The volunteers.
in the rally, because once they're inside the rally, they're under Secret Service's control. When they're outside the rally,
they're more affected out. They're harder to get in.
The media will cover it no matter where it happens.
I assume it's always in the rally.
Initiating the conflict by having leading conversations with people who are naturally psychotic.
Right.
Okay, I mean, honestly, it is not hard to get some of these assholes to pop off.
Right.
It's a matter of showing up to want to get into the rally in a Planned Parenthood t-shirt. Or, you know, Trump is a Nazi. You know, you can message to draw them out and draw them to punch you.
Fovel boasts about the extent of his network of operatives.
So here, you have a schedule of events. We update this on an ongoing, rolling basis every morning.
Those are all the Trump appearances.
These are all the Trump and Pence appearances. Tomorrow, for instance, we are turning out 500 people in front of the Trump International in D.C. We have to have people prepared to go wherever these events are, which means we have to have a central kind of agitator training.
Yep.
You know, we have a built-in group of people in New York who do this.
Okay.
We have a built-in group of people in D.C. who do this.
I was going to say, are they localized?
We have a group of people in Vegas. We have a group of people in Colorado. We have a group of people in Minneapolis.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground.
This guy is Aaron Black. He works full-time for Kramer at Democracy Partners. He directs the spontaneous protests at Trump and Pence events. His real name is actually Aaron Minter. We don't know why he uses the name Black.
Nobody's really supposed to know about me. So the Chicago protest, when they shut all that was us. It was more him than me, but none of this is supposed to come back to us because we want it coming from people. We don't want it to come from the party. So if we do a protest and it's DNC protest, it's right away the press is going to say partisan. But if I'm in there coordinating with all the groups on the ground and sort of playing field general, but they're the ones talking to the cameras. Then it's actually people. But if we send out press advisories with DNC on them and Clinton campaign, it doesn't have the same effect.
We have to be really careful because what we don't need is for it to show up on CNN that the DNC paid for X people to. That's not going to happen.
So B and I did the Chicago Trump event where we shut down the all scaffolding.
Zulema Rodriguez and Aaron Black are bragging about a protest last March that turned extremely violent and led the Trump campaign to cancel a huge rally. Fights broke out between protesters and Trump supporters, and 2 Chicago police officers were injured. Based on our reporting, the event was not spontaneous.
We have a call with the campaign every day to go over the focuses that need to be undertaken.
I just had a call with the campaign and the DNC. Every day at 1 o'clock.
We met her at the Republican convention in Cleveland in July.
And then we also did the Arizona one where we shut the highway down.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
This Clinton dark machine is also prepared for the fallout from the violence they foment at the Trump rallies and other demonstrations.
Because the one thing I'm never going to do is have some kid get punched out at a rally and then not have his doctor bill and his legal bill, if he gets arrested, pay for it.
Ultimately, the whole endeavor is to get negative press of Trump and his supporters in local and national media.
It's something that Bob and I obsess about, is we're not going to go to an effort to just do an event and not have anybody show up or not have it covered. We have to get coverage.
These guys have been doing their dirty tricks for some time, even before Trump won the nomination.
So I probably know your work.
I know you do. Everybody does. But
Was the, you mean like a situation where it's sort of like
Remember the Iowa State Fair thing where Scott Walker grabbed the sign out of the dude's hand? And then the dude gets kind of roughed up right in front of the stage right there on camera? Yeah. That was all us. The guy who got roughed up is my counterpart who works for Bob.
And that was like storyboarded, that him getting roughed up, or
scenarioed it.
So you like lent yourselves to that situation, and it happened.
We not
it was
only
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
We planted multiple people in that front area around him and in the back to make sure there wasn't just a action that happened up front. There was also a reaction that happened out back.
Remember this woman? Her name is Shirley Teeter. She is a 69-year-old sufferer of COPD. According to numerous news stories at the time, she was assaulted at a Trump rally in North Carolina by Trump supporter Richard Campbell. The media played her story across the country for days.
She was one of our activists.
She was one of your activists
who had been trained up to bird dog.
Yes.
So the term bird dogging, you put people in the line at the front, which means they have to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, so they're getting the front of the rally, so that when Trump comes down the rope line, they're the ones asking him the question in front of the reporters because they're pre-placed there. To funnel that kind of operation, you have to start back with people 2 weeks ahead of time and train them how to ask questions.
Right.
You have to train them to bird dog.
No, I'm saying, we have mentally ill people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake. Over the last 20 years, I've paid off a few homeless guys to do some crazy stuff, and I've also taken them for dinner, and I've also made sure they had a hotel and a shower, and I've put them in a program. Like, I've done that, but the reality is, a lot of, especially in our union guys, a lot of per-union guys, they'll do whatever you want. Yeah. They're rock and roll. When I need to get something done in Arkansas, the first guy I call is the head of the AFL-CIO down there, because he will say, what do you need? And I will say, I need a guy who will do this and this, and they find that guy. And that guy will be like, yeah, hell, let's do it.
Bird dogging. Bird dogging. It's a word we had not heard until we got into this investigation. But when we checked the WikiLeaks Clinton emails, we found references to the term in emails to and from the campaign. This is a chain where Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook suggests it might be a tactic to employ to shore up support with Hispanic voters. After our report, they may also need some help with the people in Iowa and Wisconsin.
So I have to be really honest. Iowa is a difficult case because it's a 50-50 state, and honestly, half the state is racist as fuck. I came home last night and really I was upset because that's not the way I was raised, and that's not the Iowa that I grew up in, but you kind of have to accept that that's the way it is. Now,
It's not who you are, but that's what the state is.
right, Wisconsin is just as bad.
Okay.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Corruption. As you can see, it's alive and well in our country, and you're paying for it. As we continue to release more videos, you must hold the mainstream media to account to further investigate what we've uncovered. America, our war is here. We must decide if we're going to save this country or lose it. To quote Abraham Lincoln, America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter or lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves.
You could fuck your mother in front of the governor and not go to jail.
Multiple overall campaign. And yeah, for me as a attorney, this is something like that.
And I assume you don't go off and tell these conversations to anybody.
No.
Because this is
No, absolutely. So, no.
However, other people can make things happen that you don't need to know about. We talk about lots of things that we don't talk about.
You know what? We've been busting people in, a fucking asshole, for 50 years, and we're not going to stop now.
This is part 2 of our undercover investigation into the dark, backroom dealings of the Hillary Clinton campaign. Part 1 blew up on social media, with many Americans wondering why the mainstream media wasn't covering the story. In fact, Project Veritas Action had television exclusives lined up around the country. Those television stations spiked the story at the last minute. Our sources tell us the reason they did so was fear of retaliation and retribution from a future Hillary Clinton administration. Truth is dangerous, especially when it challenges those in power. In this video, Democratic operatives tell us how to successfully commit voter fraud on a massive scale.
A lot of free union guys, they'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
They're rock and roll.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground. Nobody's really supposed to know about me.
You know what I'm saying? We have mentally ill people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake.
This guy named Cesar Vargas is his name. I got a priest to cry on camera once.
You know, Brad and Bob and Lux and myself are all part of the old school method where it doesn't matter what the freaking legal and ethics people say. We need to win this motherfucker.
So Bob is really good friends with him, and talked to him this afternoon, and they are all in. If we can get 25 grand, they're all in.
Our investigators wanted to find out what it would take to get the highest favorable turnout. Democratic politico Scott Fovel was our target, and he was more than willing to lead us through the process of how to rig an election.
We did to them when we were in charge too. So what did we do? We did the exact same thing. Only we manipulated the vote with money and action, not with laws. It's a very easy thing for Republicans to say, well, they're busting people in. Well, you know what? We've been busting people in, a fucking asshole, for 50 years, and we're not going to stop now. We're just going to find a different way to do it. So, I mean, I grew up with that idea. You know, they used to bus people out to Iowa. If we needed people out there, we used to bus people out to Iowa.
When we met Scott Fovel, he worked for People for the American Way, an organization funded in large part by George Soros. He now works for Americans United for Change. It's a nonprofit that claims to, quote, move America in a new, better direction, unquote. With guys like Fovel working for them, we wonder what direction that might be.
When I do this, I think you're an investigator first.
Good. Yeah. Work backwards. Yes. Yeah, that's great.
I used to do the investigation.
Yeah.
A different method. I think backwards from how they would prosecute if they could, and then try to build out the method to avoid that.
The plan that was discussed was how to bring people from one state into another state to vote illegally.
They could invalidate. Well, okay, let's just say in theory, if a major investigation came up of major vote fraud that way, how would they prove it and who would they charge? Are they going to charge each individual? Oh, sorry. Are they going to charge each individual with voter fraud?
See, that's
or are they going to go after the facilitator for conspiracy, which they could prove? And it's one thing if all these people drive up in their personal cars. There's a bus involved. That changes the dynamic. So it's the legality.
Well, yeah.
Because you can prove conspiracy if there's a bus.
Yeah.
If there are cars, it's much harder to prove.
And there's enough money.
If there's enough money, then you have people drive their POV.
Absolutely.
Or you have them drive rentals.
Yeah, with Wisconsin license plates. Absolutely.
Well, you can't have them with Wisconsin license plates because rentals here, most of them don't have Wisconsin license plates.
Oh.
But there's these things called used car auctions. Used car auctions, the titles belong to some unknown company. They're company cars.
And you know, these are multiple employers. These are not all one employer.
Use shell companies.
Yeah.
Cars come from one company, the features come from another. There's no bus involved, so you can't prove that it's en masse.
There you go.
So it doesn't tip people off.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying.
See, okay, yeah. So now I'm starting to see that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
When I do this, I think you're an investigator first.
Good. Yeah. Work backwards. Yes. Yeah, that's great.
I used to do the investigation.
Yeah.
A different method. I think backwards from how they would prosecute if they could, and then try to build out the method to avoid that.
So, okay, so you're saying shell company, you're saying the car,
if the car
rental
has a Wisconsin license plate and is owned by a third entity, then it's much harder to prove that these people drove in from out of state. There's no bus involved, so you can't prove conspiracy.
And they would have to be looking for them in the first place.
Oh, a bus is something that you're not. Yeah. That you're not looking for, or that you are looking for.
Yeah.
A car.
Our journalist helped brainstorm with Fovel on how to come up with addresses for their phony voters.
Now, if we just have the canvassers logging the homes, they don't even have to. They don't even have to know why they're doing.
Put a mark on it
and say this address. You know, we have moved, but moved could mean someone else moved in.
You take that data and you flip it out and you give it to people and you have people go voting. That's brilliant. I love it.
So. Yeah, and you know, it sort of depends upon how, you know, how much the canvassers don't have to know why they just need to be told to do. Yeah.
In fact, you don't want them to know.
Right.
The question is whether when you get caught by a reporter, does that matter? Because does it turn into an investigation or not? In this case, in this state, the answer is no. Because they don't have any power to do anything.
Right. So this is sort of maybe not stuff for the general, but stuff to maybe hold off until.
No, I think you could do it for the general. You have to do it in multiple states.
Okay.
So what you do is you implement the plan on a much bigger scale. You implement a massive change in state legislatures and in Congress. So you aim higher for your goals.
and then you implement it across every Republican held state.
I'll let you know what goes with.
So starting on the grassroots,
That's honestly the ripest environment to do it in. Two, within striking distance. Michigan, Indiana, least restrictive donation caps and campaign finance laws and investigation and any investigative arms and any of that. Like, they have weakened it so bad in these 3 states. You could fuck your mother in front of the governor and not go to jail. If you had enough money to go like this.
Fovel then told our journalist that he knew the guy that makes stuff like this happen.
So Bob Kramer comes up with a lot of these ideas. I work with Bob Kramer one-to-one all the time. I'm the white hat. Democracy Partners is kind of the dark hat. I will probably end up being a partner there at some point. Because our philosophy on things is actually the same.
Bob Kramer founded Democracy Partners in 2011. He is the husband of Jan Schakowsky, a Democratic congresswoman from Chicago, and in 2005 he pled guilty on tax violations and bank fraud. He was convicted and sentenced to 5 months in prison and 11 months of house arrest.
One of the things that Steve was talking to Scott about and passed on to me, and I think it's one of the reasons why I got in touch with you, he envisioned, what do you need to be able to vote in some of these new voter, what do you really need, okay? What makes you a citizen? And if you look at that checklist, it's an ID card of any kind that shows you who you are, and a pay stub that shows you're getting paid at a local address someplace.
I mean, to get registered.
Yeah, to get registered.
Yeah.
So you go in and register. If you have those 2 things, you're registered to vote.
Yeah.
So if you, let's say I had a business inside of, say, Illinois or Michigan, and I hired people, and I had addresses for them, I could write them checks for those. I could use them as day laborers or whatever, and use them and find my way around the voter registration laws for Hispanics. That's one thing. I'm actually, that idea, when he gave it to me, I was like, that sounds like something we could register huge numbers of people that way. Well, that kind of thing kind of stuck in my craw when he mentioned it to me.
All right, let me, on that front, I'm going to write down these options. Let me see if I can chat with the people who are most involved in Hispanic voter registration.
Okay.
And see what their thoughts are. I mean, there are a couple of different organizations that's their big trick.
Okay, yeah, if you know folks that you can put me in touch with, what if I,
We'll help you do this. I mean, this is very important, this stuff. Turnout is huge.
Because Bob Kramer is diabolical, and I love him for it.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from that man over the last 20 years, I can't even tell you. And he calls me to be his firefighter a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because there are people who, in our movement, who will not do what it takes to get shit done. And I am not that person. I'm the one they send when everything has gone to shit. So he spends a lot of time on the phone with my boss, actually, like asking for me to go places that I don't go.
We had our donor set up a second meeting with Bob Kramer to see how he could help put this voter fraud plan into motion.
This is re-enfranchising the voter. That's how I look at it, okay? If I could, through my company, employ these people for a day, okay, or for a week, or for a month, okay? And I could find work for them, useful work for them, and issue corporate IDs for them.
Here's my fear. We can run this by our lawyers.
Okay.
My fear is that someone would decide that this was a big fraud scheme.
Kramer hesitated to help our donor pull off the voter fraud scheme that Fovel created.
Bob came back to me and asked me, what is he talking about? And I told him what we were talking about.
What you did.
And he said, well, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole now.
Right.
I go, nor should you.
Good advice.
Nor should you. Okay. He goes, good, I'm glad we're on the same page there. I said, however, other people can make things happen that you don't need to know about. And he goes,
so that's where I think this goes.
Yep. But you do understand, he's still going to have to know about it.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Well, I mean, is that okay as long as it's outside of... Okay. Now...
We talk about lots of things that we don't talk about.
Fovell told us about a guy in New York that works with Kramer a lot. We wondered if he was the guy who could pull off the voter fraud scheme.
This guy named Cesar Vargas is his name. So Bob is really good friends with him, and talked to him this afternoon.
Vargas is an interesting character. He is the co-founder of the Dream Action Coalition, a New York lawyer and a dreamer himself. Born in Mexico, Vargas is an undocumented alien.
What he was innocent was that this idea, and Scott made it seem possible, but said it wasn't possible to happen. But I even know if it's actually possible. It is, essentially getting a bunch of people, on a bus or whatever, taking them around the country. They legally can vote, so they can vote. At the same time, they're also getting work permits under a different name and voting again on behalf of people who cannot vote.
Right. Yeah, I would say can we make something for, especially within the midterm elections in 2018? No, this is not going to happen, right?
I know that.
It's not gonna happen. So I think it's not about, for us, let's see who the next president is. If it's Donald Trump, it even makes more sense. The issue would be even more incredible and much more opportunity for us to jump into this.
Right.
If the Secretary Clinton and the voting ID laws are loosened and we have much more opportunity for people to vote, and we have immigration reform, it's not going to be as significant, right?
If we cross the bridge, can I count on you possibly help us do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Count me in.
And you don't go off and tell these conversations to anybody.
No.
Because this is...
No, absolutely. As an activist, do we want to do this? Do we want to take a chance? Let's talk about it.
We have to do a better job of making our people do what they're supposed to do. Not asking them, making them, not expecting them and taking them for granted, but beating the shit out of them and making them do it. Like voters. Yeah.
America, our series of videos from this investigation will continue up until the election. People ask me, James, what can I do? Here's what you can do. Send this video to every single person you know. Demand the mainstream media play these tapes. Email the journalists. Tweet at the journalists. And remember, the truth is dangerous, especially when it challenges those in power.